bluegrass to the mountains, our lakes regions. I think Kentucky is one of the most beautiful places on earth. The original idea for the Bluegrass Games came from Leslie Klein, a former Olympian who had participated as a child and teen in New York State Games. Knowing the Kentucky people as I do, I thought this Olympic sports festival would appeal to our sports tradition and the competitive nature of all Kentuckians. So I called a meeting in January of 1985, reaching out across the state to the top sports and recreation and professional experts. They all came together and believed, as they said, with a lot of effort, we could do it. With a year to plan, we could put together a great sports festival. My response was that I wasn't talking about 1986. I really wanted the first games in the summer of 1985. There was a silence in the room, and most said, it can't be done. But then soon after that meeting, I got a call from Ann Coffey, my games organizer, saying that Sue Feimster had called from UK asking to talk to me about the games. She had talked with President Singletary and Mayor Basler, and they agreed to host the first games. I was delighted. And then she told me she had only one request of me. She said, "Governor, you must be the face and the voice of the games to show that the state is behind this effort, that I would appear when they needed me, that I would put the weight of the state behind the effort with volunteers and the National Guard." And so I asked Sue, is that all you want? And she said, well, at least for now, Governor. Sports teams were organized immediately. Our state news machine went to work. We announced the games, and so much enthusiasm and momentum was building. The fundraising began, and Bob Davis took the lead in fundraising and created a team, including my husband Bill, to make pitches for the games to potential funders. 3 brave sponsors stepped forward: Coca-Cola, CSX, and Ashland Oil, putting up the money to fund the games for the first 3 years. They became our founding sponsors. We now have 26 sponsors and a budget of $500,000. The first year wasn't all smooth sailing. We had huge obstacles to overcome. There was housing, feeding 20,000 people, 1,000 volunteers and the media, moving food and water to the sites, and of course, first-rate injury care. The task was really monumental. One of the things I'm most proud of is the care and treatment of the athletes that became injured. We had athletic trainers and volunteer doctors from 5 states on call at various sites. Just the very best. Challenge after challenge was overcome. Finally, the games did begin. We started in Frankfort on the steps of the Capitol with the lighting of the Olympic torch, carried by runners from Frankfort to Lexington. The runners created quite a sensation running on US 60 with their military and their ambulance escorts, and traffic was tied up for miles. Well, I was in it, trying to get to the campus. Finally, a police escort rescued me on Versailles Road and got me in the back way to the stadium. Opening ceremony that first year was at the UK Shively track, which seated about 12,000 people. By 5 o'clock, the stadium was packed with parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, waiting to see their sons and daughters participate in the parade of athletes. When I entered the stadium, I was filled with emotion. A packed house in the stands and 10,000 Kentuckians set to parade in with their teams. And then it started.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Bluegrass State Games. I'm Kaywood Ledford, and it's my pleasure.
Kaywood Ledford announced in his wondrous voice, and an Olympic fanfare escorted the runner carrying the torch into the stadium from Frankfort and handed it off to our special guest, Bob Beamon, the great gold medal winner in long jump. People went wild in the stands, cheering and standing and waving flags. 3 National Guard jets flew over the stadium. It was simply stupendous. The colors of each team filled the stadium infield. And standing there, I couldn't believe my eyes. 6 months, we had done it. Beyond my wildest expectations. I took the podium and after a few remarks, enthusiastically said,
I now declare the 1985 Bluegrass State Games open for competition.
We started state games in Florida in 1980. I was really concerned about what our home state was going to do. I'd already seen opening ceremonies in Montana, in Ohio, Indiana, and South Carolina. I was at that opening ceremony. I couldn't believe what my home state was doing. The Bluegrass State Games was already one of the best state games in the nation, and it had just started, and it still is. Way to go, Kentucky. Way to go, Governor.
Can you imagine that little old Kentucky had the largest first-year state games ever? That we consistently rank in the top 5 nationally in participation, beating out other states with much larger populations like Indiana, Ohio, Florida, and New York. In 24 games, 350,000, yes, 350,000 have participated, and we have been a training ground for people of all ages and skill levels. One of our most recent success stories is Tyson Gay, whose mother encouraged him as a youth to run in the games. Now an Olympian, Tyson ran the 3rd fastest 200 meters in the world in winning the Reebok Grand Prix. Now that's what I call the spirit of Kentucky.
You know, in about 20, 25 years from now, historians may look back and say that Martha Lane Collins and her administration were very key in bringing about education reform in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. But what they may overlook is the fact that this lady right here had a very important part to play in the bringing of the Bluegrass State Games here to the Bluegrass State.
There are so many people who've made these games successful. It's not just me. Each governor after me has supported the games, each mayor in Lexington, Richmond, Frankfort, and Georgetown, and the presidents of those colleges and universities who donated facilities and people and all the little things that made a big difference. The volunteers who do yeoman's work, and our sponsors who help fund the games. And the people from every part of the state who came together in kinship and competition. The people of Kentucky are the spirit of the games. Their love of competition, their embracing of Kentucky, and the unity of this state has helped the games to reach their first quarter century. May the games go on for another 25 years.